today, as we would normally do at Toastmasters. I'm vice president. I'm the vice president of education at Niantic Toastmasters. And this is what we do with Toastmasters, a 5 to 7 minute speech. I like to talk about, I call it, my speech title is called Strange Encounters. And I want to talk for a minute about our two cats. We have two cats at home. One of them is PK, the other one's Cleparetta. And one cat is, Cleparetta's 12 years old and PK's 11. PK's the male cat and Cleparetta's the female cat. And they're very different. And you think of cats, they can be different a lot of the time. And they have a pecking order. They have their own territory. And when they get together, it's really kind of a strange encounter. They're complete opposites in many ways. Cleparetta is very aloof. PK is very friendly. I don't know how many of you have cats or not, but I think a lot of people have cats, and you probably know what I'm talking about. People have the 10 Commandments. Maybe you've heard of the 10 Commandments and Moses and all that stuff. With cats, we have 5. There's no biting, no fighting, no scratching, no running around, and no meowing. Of course, they break all those commandments all the time. So cats are a lot of fun. They're very entertaining. On the other side, there's dogs, and dogs are very different from cats. We used to have dogs when we were growing up. When I was a teenager, like 50 years ago, we had dogs. And dogs can be different from cats, aren't they? Dogs are friendlier. Even though one of my cats will pack around my legs and be very friendly with me, especially at food time, dogs are always wagging their tail. Dogs are also easier to train. You think about a dog sled. You can put 8 or 10 dogs and pull a dog sled, and they'll all pull together and work like a team. And you yell mush and they mush. Of course, it takes some training, but dogs are a lot easier to train than cats. And dogs also tend to be more social, and the cats are kind of aloof. Dogs also kind of have a pecking order where there's, take my dog sled analogy, there's certain dogs that like to be in front. And there's other dogs that get in the back of the dog sled and they just kind of glad they let somebody else do the work. So that makes them happy. And cats tend to be more self-sufficient. But when you put cats and dogs together, that's really a strange encounter, if you know what I mean. Now for the $64,000 question. Where do people fit into all of this? Are people more like dogs or are people more like cats? I think when you describe people, how would you describe them? Is it easy to train people? Can people be territorial? You know, cats can be very territorial. We had the neighbor's cat come into our yard the other day, and whoa, I scooted my cat right inside because I didn't want to fight. What would happen if you were to try to hitch 8 or 10 people to a sled and get them to pull all at the same time? I mean, unless they're the Marines or somebody who's really been trained to do stuff like that, you're going to probably have a hard time getting 10 people who will be willing to pull a dog sled or any kind of a sled. They'll say, oh, I've got another appointment. I've got to go to the dentist right now. Sorry, it's a great idea, but I got other things I got to do. And there'll be one who likes to be in front, and there'll be one who will let the others do the work. So it's kind of a mixture with people like that. So you're probably wondering where all this is going. And thinking of the people on the dog sled, that's kind of a strange encounter too. But really, Toastmasters is all about leadership and teamwork. And you have all kinds of different people in Toastmasters, just the same as you have all kinds of people, different people with different likes and dislikes in the Gavel Club, I'm sure. You come from different backgrounds. You have different ways of doing things. You have different things that you're good at. So the people, it's important to be able to have teamwork and be able to have leadership when you're working with people, as I'm sure it is with the Gavel Club. Well, I'm the Vice President of Education in Niantic Toastmasters. And when I look at my role, I figure about three different parts to my role. One of them is tending the meeting agenda, making sure we have people who are willing to speak at the meeting, making sure all the roles are filled and lining up the speakers. That's one role. Also, my role is to provide education and leadership opportunities for the members. When we got the email from Nassau County Gavel Club and they were looking for opportunities to do things with Niantic Toastmasters, first thing that's going through my head is, how can this benefit our members? How can I work my members into this? How will this help them with their education and their leadership? Providing educational and leadership opportunities for the members is very important. Also, to track the member progress and to keep an eye out for problems. I believe the Gavel Club also uses pathways, and this has been a real challenge for some of our Niantic Toastmasters. Getting them to use the computer system. They'll do the speeches and then they'll have difficulty with the mechanics of getting into pathways and showing that their speech has been completed. Well, if you haven't gone into the system and marked it as complete, it's like you've never done it. So my job is to make sure, help them work through that. So I guess if an outsider were to look at a Toastmaster meeting like Niantic Toastmasters and see all the different people, the different age groups, we have young professionals, men and women from different nationalities and different places, they would say that's a strange encounter too. But we really make it work. So I would say, just in conclusion, that leadership and team building isn't easy. And finding consensus and keeping everyone happy is almost impossible. But we have a job to do, and the impossible just takes a little bit longer. If anybody has any questions for me about Niantic Toastmasters, I'd be happy to answer them.
Yes, thank you so much. Actually, we have another guest speaker today, which is Karen, and she will speak for us for another few minutes. And like you said, with the pathways, we actually have a pathway every single Friday. So we actually have a pathway right after this, and it's because we have two guest speakers today, we will have to adjust the timing of our pathway. But we're gonna get started with Karen's little speech about her speaking experience, and then we can have about 5 questions from our students, and then we'll get started with our pathway lesson today.
Hello everyone, I'm Karen MacDonald, and I too love Niantic Toastmasters. The title of my speech is Hope. If you were asked, what is hope? How would you reply? If someone pressed and said, where's your proof? How would you defend? Is hope real or just a fleeting fantasy? What evidence would you offer? And if someone said, there's no hope, what's your counterpoint? Nassau County Gavel Club and Niantic Toastmasters, thank you for this opportunity. I too grew up on Long Island in Suffolk County. You're in Nassau, I was in Suffolk, and it was a great upbringing. I enjoyed my time on Long Island very much, but now I live in Connecticut. In Gavel Club, when I saw your YouTube video, I was amazed. My heart swelled with hope. I said, these are a group of teens that have things in perspective. They love debate, they love people, they love learning. And I too was a teacher in the public schools long before I joined in my company now. I helped make nuclear submarines. Whoa, what's that, right? That's a whole lot of work is what that is. But I was so impressed with your talent, your skill, and your passion. And Maybe I'm talking to a future president. Wouldn't that be awesome? Is hope for real? I say absolutely yes. However, it requires 3 conditions. 1, evidence. 2, perspective. And 3, experience. Once again, evidence, perspective, and experience. Beyond a fleeting emotion, hope is the evidence of what is yet unseen. Hope is the evidence of what is yet unseen. Think about it this way. As you wrap a gift for that special someone, don't you hope they love it? You take the paper and the bow and maybe even a card. Don't you imagine them opening it and their face radiates with joy? That hope came from someplace. Like when my dad, in 1960, I know that's dinosaur age, wrote a $100 check for my mother. He put on the Christmas tree an envelope that said, "To Mother." Well, my 6-year-old brother, who was learning to read, grabbed the envelope off the tree and said, "Here, this is for you." And he was giving it to my grandmother. Oh boy, we all gasped. Nana cried. And until that moment, Nana had no idea that Santa would bring her anything. And think about it this way, 1960, that's many years ago, $100 was worth, in today's times, $874.04. What did Dad do after he picked himself up off the floor? Not really, but what did Dad do? He wrote 2 checks that year. And we were a poor family, so this was a gracious gift, and that gift of hope had evidence. Second, hope requires perspective. Now, you probably never heard of poet Alexander Pope, but in the year 1711, he wrote, "We should not be ashamed to admit wrong, for in doing so, we are wiser today than yesterday." I thought, I hope that's true about me. I'm going to admit when I'm wrong so that I can be viewed wiser when I learn from it. He also wrote the phrase very common today in actually poet circles and in theater, "Hope springs eternal." I have to say, 1711, what was going on that he was so hopeful about things? And I did some research. Did you know that in 1711, English Prime Minister Haley was tried for murder? Tsar Peter the Great fled Russia. French troops occupied Rio de Janeiro. And the Archduke of Austria-Hungary rebellion signed a peace treaty. Murder, power grabs, immigration, war, and peace. Does that sound a little like 2020 to you? If you read the news and watch the TV and get on Facebook, it's really kind of amazing. They do sound kind of alike. Learning from mistakes, the third component is experience. In 2016, I am ashamed to say that I didn't know who I was going to vote for president. I read the sensationalized headlines. Did eeny, meeny, miny, mo count as a real way to choose a president? No, of course not. But this year, I am much more up to date. I am much more informed. I strongly believe it is safer to vote in person than it is to do any other form of voting, because I became a poll worker for my town, and it was my job in the primary to watch people fill out their ballots and put them into the voting machine. It was my job to make sure that the paper went in correctly and that people were happy with the process. And I would say, "Hello, thank you for coming, thank you for voting." And I have to say, between the sanitizing, the cleaning, the social distancing, and people wearing their masks, I felt safer in that polling place than I do when I shop at Walmart. And that's the truth. I fear fraud. Did you know that in 1800 and in 1806, the voting process got all messed up and Congress decided those two presidents? Well, that bothers me. I want my vote to count. And when you're of voting age, I want your vote to count, because that's why America is so great. We get to make a difference. We get to vote. Fellow public speakers, I now leave you with the secret of hope. Hope is alive in every human heart. We just have to set the conditions. Oh, warriors of the Hope Universal, guard the three nights of evidence, perspective, and experience. Grow rich with wisdom. Let my examples bring you hope that you can have a better tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was a super great speech. Most of our speakers are very young in elementary school, and so hearing such sophisticated speakers are just it's so great because they're able to learn from such great examples. Sadly, we do not have enough time for any questions because we have to move on with our pathway, but you guys are free to stay. Again, these are very young kids, so they're not very experienced, but they're definitely working.